Daniel chapter 11 this morning. So let's go ahead and do that. Daniel chapter number 11. We're talking about this nefarious character named Antiochus Epiphanes. And he was just an evil man, king of the north, really Syria, but more than just Syria. I say that for a reference point. And just was so evil toward the people of God. Now, we'll see that in today's podcast. History would tell us that Antiochus was just upset about not being able to destroy the king of the south, Egypt, and he took out his wrath on a little nation named Judah or Israel here. But we know that it's far deeper than that. What history might view as a footnote, God shows us is the main storyline. And that's so true even today. Sometimes we look at our lives or we look at what's happening to Christians around the world, and we think that we are the footnote of the storyline that leads the headlines of the newspapers. Listen to me, newspapers. Man, I am old school. But no, Christianity or God's people are never the footnote. No, the world events are the footnotes. God has a plan and a purpose for his people, and history is God weaving the revelation of himself and his plan for his people, ultimately his plan of redemption of his people in and throughout the events of history. So we're finding that even here in Daniel chapter 11, a remarkable prophecy as we have seen and will continue to see. So Daniel chapter 11, and verse number 29, I think is where we left yesterday, where the Bible says, at the time appointed, he shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former or as the latter. So Antiochus will go back to wage war against the king of the south, but he's not going to enjoy any kind of victory this time. He's not going to enjoy the kind of spoils of war that he enjoyed the first time. It's not going to be the same. He's going to go fight the king of the south, and he's going to lose because Rome is going to come in and help the king of the south. The Roman Empire is now becoming stronger and stronger. Very soon, Rome will take over the world. And so this is going to be a stinging defeat for Antiochus. And in that stinging defeat, he's going to take out his frustration on the people of God. Remember, they are on the road toward Egypt and obviously then on the road back from Egypt. And Antiochus is just going to take out his fury, his rage upon God's people. Look at verse number 30. For the ships of Kittim shall come against him. So this would refer to the naval armada of Rome. So Rome sends a series of ships or an armada of ships to Egypt to help the king of the south repel Antiochus Epiphanes and his army. So the Bible says the ships of Kittim shall come against him. Therefore, he, Antiochus, shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the Holy Covenant or against God's people. So let me just say a word about his defeat. When Antiochus arrives in Egypt to defeat them, the Roman army and navy, I should say, has arrived, and the leader of the admiral, the general, and I'm forgetting his name right now. It'll come to me as soon as the podcast is over. But anyway, it's an interesting story. Look it up. He actually draws a circle around Antiochus and says, Antiochus, you're going to submit yourself to Rome, and you're going to make a decision to give taxation to Rome. Not only are you going to submit yourself, but we want you now to pay tribute to Rome, and you have to make your decision before you get out of the circle. He drew a circle in the sand around Antiochus and said, you stand there and think about it and I want a decision before you step out of that circle. And history tells us that Antiochus kind of stood there, and then finally said, okay, so be it, the will of the Roman Senate. He understood that he was outmatched, and so he agreed. But man, was he upset. I mean, anybody that names himself Antiochus the Epiphanes, Antiochus the glorious, the illustrious, Antiochus, the God on earth, okay? Anybody that names himself that obviously has pride problems. So when a person who has pride problems is made to be humbled, then he is going to be really, really mad. And that's exactly what happened. So Antiochus is just so mad. It's like the guy that gets abused at work by his boss, and he's told off by his boss at work, and he comes home and kicks the dog. Okay, that's what's happening now, because Antiochus is so mad, he's going home and he's going to, quote unquote, kick the dog. I mean, he's going to take out his fury against the relatively weak nation of Israel, here referred to as the Holy Covenant. So watch what happens in verse 30, where the Bible says, he shall return and have indignation, strong anger against the Holy Covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with him that forsake the Holy Covenant. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolation. So sometimes you hear this term, the abomination of desolation. We talked about it back in Daniel chapter 8 when we talked already about Antiochus Epiphanes, the forerunner of Antichrist. So what does all this mean? Okay, well, what the Bible is teaching is that when Antiochus comes back, he's going to take out his anger against the people of God. Now, what you need to understand is that already he has been working in the politics of Israel. He has been paying off the high priest already. He's already been trying through manipulation to change Jewish society. He's been on this plan to Hellenize. So Hellenization is to introduce Greek culture. So the Hellenization of Israel was Antiochus trying to get Israel to be culturally Greek. Don't worship God anymore. Don't follow all your silly biblical laws anymore. Don't be monotheistic anymore. Just kind of come into the real world and worship the Greek gods and take part in Greek culture and quit being so fuddy-duddy with all your Old Testament laws. I mean, come on. I mean, it's the same way that the world looks at Christianity today. You know, you're so stuffy. You know, come on, loosen up. Be like society. You're so moral. Come on. Can't you just become more like culture? I mean, there's nothing new under the sun, my friends. And so Antiochus has been on this campaign to try to Hellenize Israel. Why? Because he wants to control them. And he knows that people that are loyal to Jehovah God and people that are loyal to the book of God are ultimately not going to be loyal to him. So he wants to Hellenize Israel because he wants to control Israel. Christians that are controlled by culture are not controlled by the Lord, are not controlled by Christ. I would encourage you, if you're not already doing this, to try to listen once a week to my message that I preach here at Faith on the fractured church. I'm preaching through the book of 1 Corinthians. And the whole theme is a church that behaved more like the Corinth around them than they did like the Christ that was within them. And we find that same problem in the church today, just overrun by, controlled by culture. But so far, all the efforts and the political leveraging of Antiochus, it hasn't worked because the Jews, although they've compromised and some of the leadership has compromised, by and large, the Jews are still worshiping God and honoring God and doing what they're supposed to do. And so now when Antiochus is returning from Egypt, he is just livid. And he wants to do anything he can to stamp out all of the Jewish fidelity to God. So the Bible says here that he comes in, he destroys the altar, he makes it an abomination. Now, how does he actually do that? He offers a pig on the altar of God. So a pig, as you know, is an unclean animal in the Mosaic law. And so by offering a pig upon the altar, he desecrated the altar so that no further sacrifices could take place there. And he made the altar in the temple desolate. That place where God met man, he made it desolate. And the Bible says that he put history tells us that he put a statue of Zeus right there at the place of the altar and told people worship Zeus. So he is completely desecrating the religion of the Jews. It's horrible. At the same time, he is waging war against Israel, and he's killing people. 80,000 people died. It's a huge casualty number. He takes another 40,000 prisoners into slavery. So this is a horrible season for the people of God. Remember, we talked all about how Judas Maccabeus rises up with the Maccabees, and he fights against the army of Antiochus Epiphanes. It's a 7-year-long kind of guerrilla warfare, but finally he purges the temple and cleanses it. And remember, Hanukkah arises out of that whole event. We talked about that. You can push the replay button on one of the former episodes. We won't talk about all of that now. But that's what's happening right here in Daniel chapter number 11. Look at verse 31 and, verse 32. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. So not only is he waging a physical warfare, but he's waging psychological warfare. He's trying to get people, he's the ultimate politician. He's the ultimate manipulator, just like Antichrist will be. His most powerful weapon will be his words. Verse 32 again, but the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. So here, this is a reference to the remnant in Israel that's not going to listen. They're not going to be fooled by the flatteries of Antiochus. And although they're a minority, Judas Maccabeus, and those that fight against Antiochus, and those that stand for God, those that refuse to disobey God, those that refuse to be subsumed into Greek culture. Look at verse 33. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. So there will be those that are saying, don't follow Antiochus and stand for God and live for God. Just like today, there are a remnant of preachers and a remnant of Christians that are saying, don't be like the world and stand for God and be salt and light. And don't let the world infect the church the way that it is. And all of that. Verse number 33, yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity, by spoil many days. What's going to happen to these faithful ones? Well, they're going to go through a time of intense suffering. And in the moment, it's going to seem as if their preaching and their stand for God comes to no good result. It'll appear that they've lost. Often throughout history, in the moment, it appears as if Christianity is on the brink of extinction. It looks as if truth has lost. But remember, truth has tremendous buoyancy. And you can push truth down into the water, but like a beach ball that you push down under the water at a pool, you're not going to keep it down because it has that buoyancy. It's going to rise to the surface. And the Bible says in that's probably the first time you've ever heard truth analogized by a beach ball, but it was what best I could think of in the moment. Look at verse 34. Now, when they shall fall, they shall be helped with a little help. In other words, those that are persecuted by Antiochus, they will receive help in the moment. There will be a remnant that will help them, a little bit of human help. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries. But also there will be people that act as if they're standing for God that really aren't, that just kind of say they are with their mouths. Look at verse 35. And some of them of understanding shall fail, to try them, to purge, to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. Yeah, but some people that understand the truth and stand for God, they too shall fall. Good people are going to die. Good people that stand for right and for truth are going to appear as if their lives were utter failure. And yet, what does the Bible say? The Bible says this is a time of trial, a time of purging, a time when God is working in his nation. And in the moment, it's going to seem really, really bad. But God is doing something really, really good until the time appointed. In other words, God allows his people to go through seasons, but God knows the beginning date of that season, and God knows the ending date of that season, and God has a reason for that season. See, that's the God we serve. That even when times seem bad, and even when everything seems upside down, and even when it seems that we're losing and there's no purpose to all that's befalling us, remember this: God has a beginning date, God has an ending date, and God has a reason for that season. He did then, he does today, and he certainly will during the end days, when somebody much more powerful than Antiochus arises, the Antichrist. But God has a beginning date, and God has an ending date, and God has a reason for the season in between. I hope that helps today, and I hope you have a good day in the Lord, and we'll see you tomorrow, Lord willing.